Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every day by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. And guys, we are 19 days away. 19 days
we
away.
got past Rod Babers. We got past Earl Campbell. Now we're at 19.
Hey,
That's right.
I think we should put I know you're going to put all these 19s. Let's see if everybody can name all these 19s.
All right, so we'll start here. We're going to start here. One.
Scored a touchdown against A&M.
That's right.
In the last meeting, by the way.
We'll give people a little time to answer, and then we'll come back. I'm going to go to the next one here.
Yep. Jerry's going to be at this high school later today.
True that.
And then our next one here, still playing in the NFL.
Is he with the Dolphins right now?
I believe so.
Yeah, I believe so too.
No, I think he signed somewhere else.
And then last but not least is a current team member. Give you a little hint there, guys.
He's got an older brother on the team. Look how big he looks for a true freshman.
We're missing a key guy. We got to bring one up.
Oh boy, that's Zena. That's Zena Umiozulo right there. The first one out of the gate was Blaine Irby. The second one was Peter Jenkins. The third was Brandon Jones.
Who's now with the Broncos.
Broncos. Okay.
Hey, we need to bring up a key one.
Blake,
I sent you a text.
Oh gosh.
And it has a lot of meaning right now.
That is and so I'm kind of surprised no one has said it in the chat.
They have.
They have. Okay. Oh yes, this is an iconic picture if you're a Texas fan for sure. If I can get my browser to work here, this makes for great.
He would probably have, if I'm not mistaken, he would probably have 13 years of scoreboard. Yep, it is. That's it. Justin Tucker.
Yeah, can't beat that one.
I will say this. Earl Campbell is 20, right? The reason why the number's retired. If there were a player in Texas history worth going back and waiting a day to watch more football on, it would be Earl Campbell. So that's I will say that about him. He was my football idol growing up, not only as a Longhorn, but also in the city of Houston. He literally was just one of a kind and someone that I think every kid in the city of Houston wanted to emulate when he was a little guy playing football in the backyard and not going down and being tackled, in the backyard trying to get to the fence for a touchdown. That's how that was in my neighborhood.
Hey, real quick, Ski Breck, I got you right hand.
Oh man, well guys, obviously the scrimmage took place, the first scrimmage of the fall this past Saturday. A lot of news and notes over on ontexasfootball.com. We even put out a couple of videos of it right here on the OTF YouTube channel. But what were y'all's main takeaways from Saturday's scrimmage?
Jerry and I talked about this yesterday, and I think there were many small takeaways, like Darian Gillette playing running back was a little bit of a surprise, right? Some aspects of the NASCAR package were a surprise. The personnel they used in that. But I think the main takeaways from the scrimmage are these: quarterback-driven offense. And this is Sark's first year with a third-year starter at quarterback at Texas. Cedric Baxter goes out. It's going to be more quarterback-driven than maybe people even wanted to think about going into it. So that's one. Number two, I think, is an opportunistic defense. They have more speed, but speed is a piece of it. But it's really about the edge pass rush and a better secondary combining to create more turnover opportunities, in my opinion. And then third is team speed overall. I was told Texas, and this is from a person that was at the scrimmage, Texas comes at you in waves a little bit right now with speed and athleticism. It's no longer just a one deep team that we were hoping for even 5 years ago. I mean, look, we would all taken a one deep team that was competitive 4 or 5 years ago. Now you're getting into this two-deep team that comes at you in waves. Okay, that was one. And then I think the last one, and I mentioned this, is there's some growing confidence that what they have on the interior is going to be able to handle what comes at them this fall. And I'm talking about on the defense. So those four were the major takeaways from me for the scrimmage. Like I said, I think there are a lot of nuanced aspects of it if you want to talk about those. But those were the big ones for me that I kind of derived, et cetera.
Yeah, for me, I think, look, Anthony Hill, big time playmaker for Texas. I think that was very good sign. Andrew Makuba, who I think some of these guys are better in the game setting than they are to practice setting. I think Makuba is going to end up being one of those guys. Had a really good scrimmage, strong scrimmage. I think the versatility that Texas is going to have with their defensive front this year is that depth that's been built at the edge and those pass rushers that have been added on the edge. We've talked about it that, they worked a little bit on a NASCAR package that had Colin Simmons as a Sam linebacker with Trey Moore, with Ethan Burke, with Anthony Hill, Maurice Blackwell. They have more ability to be versatile in their front this year, in my estimation. And I think they're going to have to be, first of all. But I think Johnny Nansen brings some of that with him as well from Arizona. But I think more versatility in your front helps a secondary greatly. Because if you have more versatility, then you get more pass rush. You have more. You have different ways to attack an offensive front, an offensive team, an offensive team's personnel. So I like that Texas, one, has the pass rush type of guys this year. That's big for me defensively. But then the versatility within the front. Defensive line, I think they're coming along. They're coming along as a group. They have to be. If Alfred Collins is working as a 6 tech at times, that means the other interior guys are coming along. Does that mean there's all SEC level players in there? No, but we're not saying that. But they have good players in there. They have solid players in there. So that's what I really like what I've seen, heard from that. And I think that another big thing that is not going to be talked about enough, but will come into play. I think Texas is going to have a legitimate rotation at offensive guard this year. And I think these guys have different strengths. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how Texas attacks various points in a game, where you're at on the field, if you're in the red zone versus on your own territory, some things like that, with legitimate rotation at guard.
Good stuff for sure. Well, they obviously go back to practice beginning today. We'll get to that here in just a second. But first, Bobby, can you tell folks out there about John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management?
Yeah, sure can. John's a Texas Ex's Life member. His wife and 6 siblings, all UT grads as well. It's that rich family tradition that explains why John branded his firm Longhorn Wealth and has dedicated his efforts to providing total wealth management for Texas alums, employees, family, and friends. He's a certified financial planner with more than 30 years providing investment, retirement, insurance, and estate planning services and solutions to Longhorn family and friends across the nation. As with CJ Baxter's knee injury last week, bad things do happen to good people. So to make sure your disability and life insurance programs are providing the right amount of protection for you and your loved ones, please reach out to John for a free 90-minute consultation to explore how Longhorn Wealth can analyze your risk protection needs by calling them at 972-707-4900 or go online longhornwealth.net to schedule your free consultation. Hook 'em. John, thanks for having me at the Collin County Texas X's over the weekend. Enjoyed speaking to that group up in Plano.
All right. Well, as I said, the team does resume practice today. Bobby, can you tell folks about that, when they're going to start, media availability, all that good stuff? Fill folks in.
Yeah, absolutely. They start around. They start practice around 2:45. They'll go for about 2 hours. Steve Sarkisian then meets with the media at 5 o'clock. I will not be there. CJ Vogel and John Burroughs will be there for us. We will have an immediate follow after that meeting with Sark as well to see if anything major breaks out of that. I do think, Jerry and Blake, that we might start hearing about, and I tried to explain this in my morning article on Texas Football. Sark said that the first scrimmage is a little bit of a winnowing process.
Yeah.
You're culling down the roster from 105 guys to a more manageable number. Maybe it's 75 or 80. And you're trying to see which guys are already ready and you can rely on. Okay, they go in a bucket. Okay, they're going to be on the travel roster. They're playing for us this year as long as they're healthy. Then you have this next group of 20 to 25 guys where you're trying to figure out whether or not they can be relied on. They're on the cusp. What are they going to do in real game-like situations? Are they going to jump off sides? Are they going to make mental errors? And so they were looking for that in the scrimmage as well as production. And so I think we'll start to see that as we go forward this week. And I'm going to be interested. One of the first questions I'm sure Sark will be asked today is whether or not Darian Gallette's move to running back is going to be a season-long move, or if he's just going to go back to linebacker because they like what they have at running back based on the performances of Jarrett Gibson and Christian Clark this practice. I will say one thing about it. Texas is considering right now its usage of Jaden Blue and Trey Wisner. They did not run them up the middle much at all on Saturday, and that was on purpose. That was deliberate. It doesn't mean they won't run up the middle during games, but Texas knows they're playing with fire, and they don't want to tempt fate right now at running back. But the Darian Gallette question will be one. I'm sure there will be others as well, or based around what we heard. But we'll see how it goes, and we'll know more later this afternoon.
I think he'll get some questions on how much on Jahdae Barron's role, how much he's expected to play corner versus nickel. I think he'll probably get a question on Jahdae Barron today. I'll be surprised if he doesn't. Maybe we're giving out question ideas here.
Oh, man. All right. Well, a lot of stuff going on and recruiting going on as well, Jerry. Decisions are on the horizon. What's the latest?
Yeah, a little bit of a quiet week here after the decisions last week. Then starting again on August 21st, Michael Fasusi will announce his decision. That we've kind of gone back 21st, 22nd. I spoke with Michael briefly over the weekend. He said 21st as of right now is his decision date. I think there's something there around the school for him or around football for him on the 21st. So I think that's going to be his date. I still think Oklahoma may be trending over Texas, but we'll see where this battle goes here in the next few days with Michael Fasusi. A&M's not giving up, but I think Oklahoma and Texas is expected where this decision will come from. And I think Oklahoma was trending after June visits. I've heard nothing to flip the thought process on that right now. Nick Brooks could be the 23rd of August, could be the 30th. He hasn't. I don't think it's set in stone yet. I don't think the three colleges that are in it for him have been notified of a date yet. So we'll see if there's some movement with that date. There's been some stuff out there on Nick Brooks that maybe Georgia's not prioritizing him and Georgia's out of it or something. And at Texas USC, I'm not buying that. On Texas football is not buying that. I think Texas and Georgia is where this decision will ultimately come from. Not that USC is not making a run at it, but that would be a surprise as of right now. Could it change? Things can always change. But anybody that doesn't think Georgia would take or is prioritizing Nick Brooks, I think is off. I mean, I'll say that. But these guys, he's had really good communication with Sark and Kyle Flood since the move back to Atlanta. Nothing's changed on that front, and talking to a couple of sources. Then you get to Jonah Williams on August 24th. Not that far off. We're 12 days away there. It's interesting. I think again, I'm going to continue to say the same thing. And there's literally picks in our industry out there for 4 different teams on him throughout his process. So maybe somebody will be right at the end of the day on it, or we'll stick with a pick. But if he goes to Oregon, first family member to go outside the state of Texas or far from home. It'll be interesting to see where those conversations go with the family here in the next few days. If that's not the play, then you're looking at LSU, Texas, Texas A&M. I think there's some guarded optimism. But I think that's more on the football side, and I think the baseball side, Blake, doesn't really know, right? Not a feel.
Yeah.
Does LSU? When I talked to Jonah, one thing he said at Galveston Ball last week that LSU had the best plan for him, football, baseball, on the visits when he went down there. Now, Schlossnagel wasn't at Texas at that time, but he did mention that LSU had the best plan for him that he thought. Now, where does all of it go? I don't know. He'd also, if he goes out of state, he's the first of the Williams family to go out of state for college. So we'll see what happens there as this one gets closer. Then you have Jamie French, August 30th. Look, Texas, Miami is where the decisions is still expected to come from. I think Miami will truly make Texas earn it, as they should. We talked about it with Cedric Baxter's recruitment back in the day. We talked about it with Jarrett Gibson. These are well-earned wins in the state of Florida for Texas. And Chris Jackson, Steve Sarkisian, I believe, has the best relationship with French and his family during this recruiting process. Miami is going to make Texas earn it big time. And then we'll see about some other decisions. Aiden Anning would like to have a decision before his season begins. Their season begins August 22nd. We'll see if that holds as far as a decision with him. So that's looking more like Texas, Arkansas with LSU in the picture. I think Miami's too far from home there. Michael Terry could be early in the season, could be midway through the season. Not really anything locked in as of the weekend as far as a date goes with him. I think Texas has the most confidence. Nebraska's in it. Oregon, Terry really likes, too far from home. Then I think Madden Faremo. Look,
wait, Jerry. Got it on Michael Terry. We got something for you, buddy.
Ah, nice. There you go.
So this was just sent in by a user to our On Texas Football at Gmail account. If you ever have anything you want to show us or what have you, please feel free to use that Gmail account. It's On Texas Football at Gmail. Apparently, this is from I think Jedi Bevo. He basically sent this in. This is Michael Terry's senior picture.
I like it.
At Alamo Heights. Now, Blake, I want you to zoom in on those gloves a little bit, if you don't mind. Can you go any deeper or no, Blake? He's trying up a little bit. He's wearing little Texas Longhorns gloves in his senior picture. I don't know if that means much with these guys. They get so much different gear, Jerry, but at least it's something interesting, right? To talk about.
Yeah, no, I think Texas has the most confidence in that recruitment. I think Nebraska has thrown I jokingly say thrown all the kitchen sinks in Lincoln and Omaha at it, which they have. And we'll see. The biggest thing for Terry is his timeline, right? It's gone December, even I'll announce at the Adidas game behind the scenes, even though you would sign early, right? There was thoughts August, September. I think that timeline's kind of open. But again, is he going to go that far from home? I think things trend to Texas there, and we'll see what happens if anybody can pull off that upset. Madden Faremo, Notre Dame, Texas battle. Look, he's one, and we've been saying this. He was fluctuating. He had been talking about August, September. He talked about late in the season. So he was interviewed, I believe, that said even signing days on the table for him. But that's what we're kind of saying. This one's been going back and forth. And I continue to believe the longer it plays out, the better it is for Texas. Because if he'd come off the Texas visit and just said, I'm announcing my decision, I still think that would have been Notre Dame. And I think Texas has done a very good job in this recruitment. Johnny Nanson's done a very good job. Sark and the staff did a great job with the family on the official visit. They've changed the calculus of this recruitment. So I'm not saying Texas can win out over Notre Dame in the end. There's a lot to play. There's a long runway in this one. I expect them back on campuses at Notre Dame and Texas this season. As of right now, these plans can change with these kids, but as of right now, USC's not going to give up. Obviously, Washington, still making the phone calls, but Notre Dame and Texas are the top two here. And Notre Dame's been a leader for a while. So those are the guys. Somebody's asking how many highs are out there. There's a couple of highs left out there. We'll see what happens. Coming up with that. And somebody's asking about flip targets. Texas, Myron Charles. I think Texas and Myron Charles continue to have plenty of conversations. But the key there is they got to get him back on campus this season, in my estimation.
Blake, you're muted, buddy.
My apologies. I said we want to thank Brandon for the super chat about those highs. Thank you. We definitely appreciate it. And one other one for you, Jerry, from Jack. Thank you, Jack. He says, are there a few high school players that we should watch this fall for senior development?
Yeah, so I'm not sure development as much as I look, Chase Sims at Richmond Randall, committed to A&M's very good defensive lineman, right? Could a Dylan Battle impress as a senior at Mansfield, Timberview, Texas, and Texas maybe change there? I don't know. Right now, it feels like LSU is the place he ends up, but we'll see on that. We'll see. There's always defensive backs, but again, with Texas, it's more they stay on the guys they really like. Now, I do think in the Southeast, and I'm talking Mississippi JUCOs, Alabama, state of Georgia, Florida, D-line, there could be an offer or two that Texas knows about the guys, but maybe Kenny Baker didn't get to see those guys in person because he had a shorter time frame window than the other members of the staff that you get to go see senior year in person. Texas has 2 off weeks this year. That's one of the things that's interesting. There's more off weeks this year in college football now for recruiting purposes, so coaches might be out on the road a little bit more now. But I'm looking in the Southeast region on the defensive line, couple 3 guys committed elsewhere that are going to be in play, I think, for offers.
Well, I think also the other thing to keep in mind there, Jack and others, is that there are limited positions right now that Texas is looking at too. They're not going to take another quarterback, for example. So that takes a whole position off. They're not going to look for another running back. They've already got 2. They're probably not looking for an additional offensive lineman if they get 1 or 2 of Fasusi and or Brooks. They're not looking they could look for another wide receiver potentially depending on what happens here. So that's a possibility. D-line is an obvious one. Cornerback, in my opinion, Jerry, as well as safety could be obvious ones as well, depending on what Aiden Anding and Jonah Williams do. So the thought here that I would put out there for everybody is, yes, there will be senior guys to watch, but I think it's going to be position specific for Texas.
Yeah,
what are they at? 17 commitments right now. Texas is going to go probably to 20, hopefully prior to the start of football season at least. They only got 3 or 4 more guys, and they're going to stay on, as Jerry just mentioned, the Myron Charleses of the world.
No doubt. Hey, by the way, you guys hang in there. I think we're going to have a special guest here at 9.
There you go.
Y'all want to? If anybody leaves, y'all might want to hang out a little bit.
Hey, Jerry, we're getting a lot of questions regarding the recent Georgia decommit, like this one from Damon Graham.
Yeah.
That's defensive lineman Christian Garrett decommits from Georgia. Are there any chances with him when it comes to the Longhorns?
That's Christian Garrett from Prince Avenue private school in the Atlanta area. That's been a more close to home recruitment. I mean, the official visits were Georgia, Georgia Tech, Tennessee, Clemson. So I expect him, some people are saying Georgia Tech. That's not one I'm as familiar with just because Texas hasn't been in on it. But I haven't heard anything about Texas in that. I did talk to somebody this morning in the Peach State and just asked about it. And they think close to home for sure because that's where that recruitment's always been. So within driving, 3-4 hour driving distance for the parents max is where that recruitment's always been.
Well, guys, we got a lot of questions starting to roll in, and there's plenty of time to get your questions in. We got a lot more to talk about. But before we talk about that, Jerry, are you ready to tell folks out there about
Dude, I'm always ready to tell people, look, I got the handyman. I'm hitting the road in about an hour. I'm headed to Dallas for the week, so we got that. Okay, so we're ready. I'm always ready. Are you ready? This is the Beard and Balls bundle, guys. We're 19 days away from showing up to DKR. Better show up in style. Fellas, do you want your grooming routine to be a one-and-done deal? Well, the days of using the same trimmer for your face and those private parts are over thanks to our friends at Manscaped. They've come up with the ultimate package, to keep your hairs trimmed from 12 to 6. Introducing the Beard and Balls bundle featuring the Lawnmower 5.0 and the Beard Hedger, a trimmer for the moneymaker and another for those boys downstairs. Get 20% off plus free shipping with code ONTexas, all caps, at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code ONTexas, all caps, at manscaped.com for the only premium grooming experience. Trust Manscaped. Again, your ball's new best friend is the Lawnmower 5.0. Don't you forget it.
Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate it as always. And I also need to tell folks out there about Factor. Football season is here, but it's still a sweltering hot summer right now. Fuel up for it with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you're always going to have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. If you've been on the fence about eating better and making healthier lifestyle choices, then make today the day that you kickstart a new healthy routine. Over the past month or so, I've been trying to really take that head on and eat better so I can feel better. Factor has helped me do just that, and they can help you too. You can choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or just simply eat well balanced. And with 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you're always going to have new flavors to enjoy and explore. So just head on over to factormeals.com/Texas50. Use promo code Texas50. They're going to give you 50% off your first box plus 20% off next month. That's code Texas50 at factormeals.com/Texas50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Okay, guys. Well, as I said, we have a lot more to talk about here. And we're actually getting a lot of comments about Jordan Whittington and his performance yesterday. This week, 5 wide receivers took the field in the NFL along with quarterback Sam Ehlinger. But Jordan Whittington yesterday, 6 receptions, 74 yards against the Cowboys. You also have little Jordan Humphrey, who had 2 for 9 yards. Tariq Black, who had 1 reception for 11 yards. Devin Duvernay, 1 reception for 35. Adonai Mitchell had his first game, 1 reception, 11 yards. And then Sam went 5 of 6 for 80 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 1 carry for 4 yards. But Whittington put on a show yesterday, guys.
You know what? He's going to play a lot for them. Just bottom line. You can watch. I watched a little bit of that game. He is exactly the type of receiver they like. Dependable, all around, can make a person miss and or run through an arm tackle after a hit. He's going to be terrific. I mean, I'm so happy for him after all of the injuries he went through at University of Texas. Give me a break. I mean, that's good for him. I don't know how else to say it. You know, I look at it, and there's certain guys you root for. He's one of those, in my opinion. And I'm happy that he found a place, because this is important. Yes. If you're a receiver, you got to find the right place for you, because I guarantee you, he may not be that guy in Kansas City, right? Because they don't necessarily use that guy the same way as a Sean McVay does. So I'm just excited for him as well. Devin Duvernay down there trying to make the squad with the folks in Jacksonville after going from Baltimore his first few years. He made a diving catch near the end zone as well. I think it was a touchdown catch. But the long story short, a lot of Longhorn receivers in there. No Xavier Worthy. They did not want him out there, I don't think, on Saturday night, I believe it was. He is Hollywood Brown, the other really fast wide receiver for the Chiefs, has already been said that he's out at least until the first or second week of the season. So they're not going to mess with Xavier Worthy and his health right now.
Well, let's get to some more questions here, and we're going to start with a super chat from Longhorn Frenzy 1. Thank you, Longhorn Frenzy. He said, I watched an SEC podcast over the weekend, and they named Blue as one of their breakout running backs in the SEC. What's y'all's opinion on that?
I got 2 opinions. One, they should say that after Baxter's injury, and 2, Blue better be. I mean, that's kind of, I know it's cut and dry, but from the people reporting standpoint, they should be saying that Cedric Baxter went down, right? And So that puts even more of a load on Jaden Blue's shoulders. I hope it doesn't change how Texas was really planning to use him, though, because I think he could have 40 catches for 500 yards and be a total just menace as a receiver from the running back position for this Texas team this year. I just think he's got just such tremendous hands and downfield speed at the running back position and the ability to play the ball. But yeah, he better be. I mean, that's the reality of it. Texas needs him to be at this point. Trey Weiser, very good player, right? But Jaden Blue is the number one guy now, and he's going to have to carry a bigger load than probably anticipated. Although I'll say this, I don't think you're going to see. I go back to Jahmyr Gibbs, because a lot of people ask about Jahmyr Gibbs, and we're not comparing the player, but let's compare to production. Jahmyr Gibbs had 44 receptions his year at Alabama, and I believe he had 151 carries. So he had 195 touches in 12 games. He missed a game due to injury, I believe. So 12 games. So was that 16 and a half around there touches a game? I could see Jaden Blue, Bobby, in that 16 to 17 category. It's a physical, long season.
I like Jaden Blue. I think my thought process changed on him about midway through last year, when he clearly was becoming a threat in the offense. That was probably more of an better all-around threat than Keelan Robinson, who I always said was just a boutique running back for Texas. Good player, just he had certain plays that were good for him. The two things that I look at, I do think he's going to be a breakout player for Texas. The two things I want for Jaden Blue to be able to take that role away from Cedric Baxter and what they're going to ask of him, two small things. Ball security. He's got to hold on to the ball better. He had a couple fumbles last year, Jerry, including one in the Washington game. Cedric Baxter had one too, so I'm not pointing him out. Ball security for a smaller back that's going to be asked to run inside more. Ball security, and then obviously pass protection. He has to get better there. Those two items, he's got the rest, in my opinion. He can make defenses stay real honest and scare them on the outside with his speed. I think it's a good choice to make him a breakthrough candidate, as long as he is the all-around back that Texas needs, which is the piece that he has to match now with Cedric Baxter gone. He can't just be a one-trick pony, catch balls out of the backfield, run outside. He has to be the full meal deal.
Hey, playing off that, I want to bring this one up because we've had a lot of Darren Gillette questions.
I was actually going to that one next.
Christopher Weatherford, utilizing Gillette to ensure the health for the rest of our running back room, or is there more to it than that? So I think there's more to it than that, potentially, for Gillette. So, look, I think the reality is Texas has 4 talented running backs. They're not void of depth at running back. But Texas also knows Blue or Weiser, they're going to get nicked up this year. It's a long season. You're playing physical big teams, especially Michigan in your SEC schedule. So you better have some depth behind the 4 guy, right? So Darren Gillette got that opportunity Saturday in the scrimmage. And what Bobby and I both heard he showed was the vision and ability to push a pile and make something happen between the tackles. So if Texas is looking for a red zone back, a short yardage back, if ball protection isn't an issue with Darren Gillette, who hasn't played running back since high school, then he could potentially find a role on this team at running back. I'll say that. Bobby?
My thing on Darren Gillette is this. He is a powerful guy. I don't know. Like, I think that's one of the things the coaches were deciding yesterday.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to overstate this, because I think we might get a little bit of an answer from Steve Sarkisian in about 4 or 5 hours here, What I was told is that he primarily did inside runs, so zone plays, inside zone, and he was more than willing to make contact.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't shy. And so there's some natural athleticism with him that may show out that he may end up being a short yardage back for Texas. I just don't know. I don't know if there's more to it than that. But they certainly ran it, and he ran the ball and somewhat effectively is what was told. So will he? I mean, I just don't know. We'll have to wait and see what the results are and if he continues to work there. I mean, Stark may have said, "Oh, that was a trial balloon," and the balloon popped. Back to linebacker for you, Darian. You know what I mean? I like what Jarek and Christian are doing as is. Or he could have said, "You know what? I like this guy. Let's keep him doing what he's doing. It won't hurt his development at linebacker because he's playing third team right now. Let's get him some game action so that he gets at least some college football experience." I'm in that category, Jerry, where I think that the coaches will decide this ultimately.
Yeah.
And I don't know which way they're leaning. I really don't.
Let's follow that up with this question here from Casey. And he says, how does Gillette at running back affect our linebacker depth?
Well, he still is working out at linebacker. He was third team linebacker Saturday in the scrimmage, which, by the way, that says something for Darian Gillette and him as a teammate and wanting to help the Texas program, right? Just let's put that in our memory bank about that kid, depending on no matter how much he plays this year, that was a pretty selfless thing he did.
That shows a willingness,
yes.
right?
Yes.
It shows a willingness. Look, he's behind Mo Blackwell, and that is the one that probably grabs me the most, Mo Blackwell and David Benda. Both of those guys, though, you got to remember, they're gone after this year. So that puts a void at that linebacker spot next year. If he's running third string at that outside or that second line inside linebacker, but Leongo Lafau is at middle linebacker behind Anthony Hill. So does Lafau take over at middle linebacker and they push Hill out to outside next year? You don't know. We also hear a lot of great things, by the way, on Ty Anthony Smith.
Yes.
Young man out of Jasper is getting a lot of behind the scenes accolades. He's making a lot of things like he makes a lot of plays, or, he stuck his nose in things like that are just almost innocuous statements, but tell you that he's showing up on film and in the game situations on a regular basis. So it makes you think, he's eventually going to be a player for Texas. So that's another linebacker to add to that group.
And hey, guys, this just happened here. USA Today came out with their All-American team. Kelvin Banks is a first-team All-American for the preseason. So the only Longhorn on the first team.
Anybody in the second or third team, or they not out yet?
I don't believe they're out yet. I'm looking for it right now. I just saw that pop up on my screen a second ago, so thought I'd put that out there. Let's take some more. We talked about running backs. Let's go over to defensive back. Jawan wants to know, will Barron start at corner and Gilbo at nickel? No way Barron doesn't start. Y'all's thought?
I don't know what's going to happen there, guys. I mean, they're clearly utilizing Jalen Gilbo in a way that makes me think he's going to play 75% of the time.
Yep.
At nickel. Now, does that mean Jahdae Barron's going to take 75% of the time at corner and 25% at nickel? I don't know that. I'm a little look. I also think that they're wanting to make sure Jahdae is healthy for the season right now, and I think that's a fair assessment. But Barron did make a play at corner on Saturday. I could see a situation where he's fighting for jobs at both nickel and corner against not only Jalen Gilbo, but also Gavin Holmes. And I could also see a situation where Texas plays more 6 DBs this year. There's a lot of different pieces. The one thing that Jahdae gives you is versatility. And we talked about this also, Jerry, one of those opportunistic, when I talked about major takeaways from the scrimmage to talk about and what I think it means. it's not just the pass rush. It's just not better DBs this year. I think it's also scheme. They're going to have a more opportunistic scheme. We heard a bunch of them rotating into giving cover 2 looks and rotating into a single high safety look on Saturday, which is not something they did a bunch of last year. So that versatility also leads to more opportunism, in my opinion. But Jade is certainly a part of that because he has the ability to play, I think, all three positions in the secondary.
And then Joshua wants to know, who do you think our 5 best defensive backs are?
Well, Manny Muhammad, Makuba. I think as the season moves along, Derek Williams. Boy, it's hard to not have Gilbo on the way the Texas staff's talking about.
I would take Gilbo and Barron. That's the issue, right? And then so you don't have a true corner, and you're leaving out Michael Taff, who is a little bit of the heartbeat of the team back there. I mean, he is a true leader, and somebody that might wear the green dot on the back of his helmet for helmet communication. So I think there's a number of guys. I think more and more it's possible that Jalen Gilbo is the guy with the dot on his helmet, by the way. Just hearing more and more stuff like that. So to say that Barron's all of a sudden going to be the guy that overtakes that, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I'm interested to see who has that. If it's not Anthony Hill, the problem is, and Anthony Hill said this, right? Home games, you may have a different helmet communicator on defense than you do away games. Because away games are typically really, really quiet for the defense. They're all yelling. The home team remains quiet for its offense, right? Home games, though, which Texas has 7 of this year, fans are notoriously loud for the defense. And so you could have 2 different guys based on home and away.
The interesting thing I would say is, if Gilbo's the guy, is the guy wearing the headset communication, who's the guy in his ear?
PK or Nansen?
I would think it's got to be Nansen.
Because
look, Nansen was the one when we were out there that first hour practice. I was standing next to Rod Babers, and Nansen was the one directing the secondary. It was his voice. It's going to be interesting to see how they make that all work.
Well, before we move on to some more questions, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell folks out there about Mint Mobile.
Yeah, absolutely. Friends don't let friends overpay for wireless. Say goodbye to your overpriced wireless plan and switch to Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you and your squad with premium wireless plans starting at just $15 a month. That's a lot less than I have paid in the past. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number with you along with all of your existing contacts. With a kid going away to college like we have, it's something my family is taking advantage of. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/OnTexas. That's mintmobile.com/OnTexas. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/OnTexas. This disclaimer must be read. $45 upfront payment is required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for more details. Again, mintmobile.com/OnTexas.
There's a good question here, Blake.
Go ahead.
Corey J., how many times does Texas leave the state this year for away games?
Let me pull up the schedule here for you guys if I can find it.
It's 4, I believe.
Yeah.
Michigan, Vanderbilt, Arkansas. No, 3. It's 3.
3.
3.
Not too shabby.
And I bet
Pretty good.
I want to say this: if given, so Texas OU is going to be 50-50. If A&M allows more than 10,000 Longhorn fans in their seats, it's because they went to StubHub and gave people the opportunity, or Game Time, or one of those places. I gave them the opportunity to do it. But I look at it, Jerry, and Michigan, Texas will travel well there. I think it's a big game, but it will be probably the only true road game from that, and Arkansas will be the only 2 true road games for Texas this year outside the state. Vanderbilt, I bet Texas has more than half the stadium.
Yes.
I mean, so that's like going to Rice. Texas is going to have more fans in the stand. Vanderbilt will be heavy Texas. Arkansas, difficult place to play. So we'll see.
Hey, I got a question. Keep the schedule.
From Texas.
I got a question. Keep the schedule up, Blake. Because I want to ask Texas fans here in the chat, which team Texas plays will travel best to Austin this year? What fan base will travel best to Austin this year? A lot of people will say Georgia.
I bet Florida.
Maybe Kentucky.
Nah, Florida. Florida travels well.
I haven't checked Kentucky's basketball schedule. That is a Saturday.
Yeah, if they play on that same Saturday, there
ain't going to be anybody there. They'll have to
have it on simulcast.
The Kentucky football team may cancel. Let's see.
I think people want to say Georgia, but I don't know that Georgia travels as well as Florida.
They'll just say we're just going to play them in the SEC championship game. They won't care. Let's see.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Florida, but I could be wrong.
Kentucky plays Jackson State, not your Deion Sanders Jackson State. Kentucky plays Jackson State November 22nd, Friday, in basketball. So that'll be a sellout in basketball. So no, Kentucky won't travel well to Texas.
They'll travel well. They'll travel better than, frankly, Oklahoma State. Yeah. People got to realize the fandom in the SEC is different than the fandom in the Big 12. And they're used to Iowa State coming down with 5,000 people. Kentucky will come down with 10 to 15. It's the 15 to 20 that you worry that are bigger with the Georgias and Floridas and Alabamas and LSUs of the world.
Somebody Kelly Horns brought up a great point. Depends on Florida's record. If Florida's having a good season, they'll travel.
They'll still travel regardless. I'm telling you, they want to go to Austin. I know some Florida grads. They're already talking. They've already made their plans because this is a great intersectional rivalry. What would have been in the past, and I think that they're going to travel well. I think Florida will travel well, regardless. Not great, maybe, to your point, like not at its Spurrier level era, right, or even Urban Meyer level era, but they will travel well.
All right, guys. And by the way, a lot of people saying UTSA in the comments there, but I believe our special guest is here. So, Jerry, I'm going to let you do the introduction, and I'll bring her in.
This is exciting for me. Nicky Jones, mother of Xavier Worthy, joins On Texas Football. We've been trying. I asked her during the season. I think that was too early, right? Xavier was still playing at Texas, but now he's in the NFL. Nicky, thank you very much for joining us. We're excited to talk to you today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here this time. Third time's a charm, right?
So what's going on in Xavier's world? What's the daily conversations like? I'm sure he's just so excited about his first NFL game around the corner.
I always tell people Xavier doesn't get excited. So if you ask him if he's excited, he's not. But yeah, right now it's just training camp, practice. Obviously, the first preseason game was Saturday. So that was really nice. But yeah, just trying to learn that playbook and using training time and preseason time to get acclimated to all of that. So
you wrote something on Twitter that I found. First of all, thank you again for joining us. I should have said that as well, but you wrote something on Twitter I found really nice and interesting about Xavier, and that is that you let him go play all the sports he wanted to play as a young kid and kind of find his passion. Didn't put him with a trainer or any of those kind of things, and just let him go out there and play. It was really a nice testament to letting a young person find their own way in the athletic world. It could be, and I will tell you, that could be analogous to a young student trying to find their own way and their own path with whatever they go study, right? Xavier just happened to be an athletic freak that studied athletics as much as everything else, right? I thought it was a really nice testament. Talk to folks about that thought process that you had behind that tweet.
Well, I think first and foremost, I always just look at Xavier as my son, a kid, right? And I think when we're kids, like we should be allowed to have fun. You only get one childhood. You should be allowed to do what you like, right? That's how you're going to, come into your own path and what, you love to do. So with Xavier, yeah, he was always athletic. So he played like everything. I mean, soccer. The only thing he didn't play was baseball, actually. But everything else, I mean, soccer, cross country, basketball, track, I mean, kickball, anything they had, he was super competitive. So he would always like join. But football was his thing. Like he loved football. Like at home, he would go outside. That's when kids used to go outside. Now they're just on their phones or tablets. But, he'd go outside. They're in the street, playing ball. And always with the older kids, too. That was another thing about Xavier. He was always with the older kids playing some kind of sport. And then, yeah, I think that's how it sticks. Like if you're pushing your kids when they're young to do something, I mean, they're going to do it because they kind of have to. You're their parent. But to develop that love and that passion and that drive, that's what's going to keep you going on the hard times when they get older. You got to let them develop that on their own. And that's what they did.
So the most underrated part of Xavier Worthy as a football player was his toughness. Okay. Well, you could probably sell he was 160 pounds, with clothes on, right? At times. But he played like he was 210 pounds. He had a mentality and a fearlessness about him. Did he always have that? Did he learn that? I mean, did he have that at a young age where he said, okay, my guy's kind of fearless. I got to actually watch what he does in a way.
No, absolutely. I think I'll credit my brother to that. Like I said, I have a younger brother, and he would always take Zay out, and that's with the teenagers. So at like 5 or 6, he's out there with like 13, 14-year-olds, so he always he just wasn't scared. He never shied away from competition. It didn't matter if you were bigger. It didn't matter if you were faster. He was going to beat you. He just was. So he's literally always had that tough mentality, which I love. I love that part about him.
You were a big advocate. All right. You were a big advocate, or have been, for Steve Sarkisian and the culture he developed in Austin. What were some of the things as a parent of a Texas player that you identified that you felt, hey, this guy is a good leader for my kid, and I want him Xavier to develop within that framework? What were some of those things?
Well, I think like just on the surface level, obviously when Steve was at Alabama, I mean, Alabama speaks for itself. The development and the receivers there. You want to go to the NFL? Like, yeah, that's where you're going to go. When it comes to Coach Sark, personally, I really respect people who are direct, who say what they mean and mean what they say, and do exactly what they say they're going to do, because that's the type of person I am. And so that's the relationship that I got to develop with Coach Sark, and just knew that like he was going to put the pieces around Xavier to be successful, not only be successful, but to develop. And that's with the coaching staff that he's brought in. In Xavier's 3 years, I mean, he's had 3 wide receiver coaches, but each one brought something to the table and instilled in Zay something that he needed at the right time each time. So with Coach Sark, just him being a man of his word and doing what he said he's going to do, I really respected that.
Hey, I got one more question for you.
Yeah.
When did you realize he was as fast as he was? Like, when was the first time you said, my God, my kid's fast? When was that?
You know what's funny? It was one day when I got a call. I was at work actually, and someone called me and said, "Hey, I'm at the track meet and I see your son. He's super quick." And I'm like, "Where is he at?" Like I hadn't even said he could go to this track meet. I didn't know what was going on. And one of his coaches, this was in like 5th grade. I call him and I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I took him to this track meet they've got. I just figured he could try it. It was for the school." I'm like, "Okay." But he was fast. He was beating everybody, like just out there running raw, like, and I'm like, "Okay, we might be onto something here." So the rest was history.
So
40 later. Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk about he came out of high school at a very interesting time because of COVID. He missed almost 2 years of football and a year of track. Talk about how did you guys get through that, and kind of how did that maybe, but look, that might have slowed his development in a way because he missed a lot of time. Kind of how did you guys navigate through that, and how did Xavier kind of navigate through that? Because that was a tough situation on the kids his age.
Yeah, it really was. He actually missed 2 years of track, right? Because the last time he ran was sophomore year. So he didn't get his junior year, he didn't get his senior year, and then missed his senior year of football. And yeah, by the time you guys saw him playing his first snap at Texas, it had literally almost been 2 years since he was in like full pads and a helmet. And as his mom, I'm like freaking out during the time. Like we had an old helmet. I'm like, should you just put that on and go outside and play catch? Like, because I mean, are you gonna remember, He would be in the backyard. We ordered like some ladders and we had some cones, and he'd be back there. He put on his little Jerry Judy YouTube, watching these releases, and he tore the backyard up. I mean, that's what he did. And I mean, it was disappointing at the time because I can only imagine if he was able to run track those 2 years. I really missed that because I do like track. But I think everything happens for a reason. And I think with these athletes, they really never get the chance to rest their body. Yes. And so even though he wasn't playing, I feel like he really got to rest. That was the first time. He had been doing all these sports all these years, and he really got to rest, still work on his technique. And then by the time he got to Texas, he was able to do what he did his freshman year and really remain, injury free for the most part his whole career. So, in hindsight, I'm not mad at it. It all worked out.
So obviously you'll be back to Austin. X will be back to Austin, but now that he's in the NFL, what's maybe your lasting memory from the time at Texas with him as a player and you as a mom of a player, an All-American player?
Oh man, there's so many. It's this weird thing. It's almost like your kid becoming an adult. So I think Texas is like my last memories of like my son as a kid, in college and complaining about homework and all that stuff like kids do. So I guess I'll miss some of that and some of it I won't. But just excited to see him like live this dream in real life now. This little kid, like I told him the other day, I was like, I just remember this little kid at my knee telling me you wanted to go to the NFL, and now I'm like sitting here watching it happen. Like it's amazing. But Texas was a great landing spot before this next step in his journey. Really.
But we got to take a fan question, okay? So we've had a couple of people want to ask this. X got engaged recently. So what did you think when he got engaged? He sure did do it right.
That's right. I was proud. I was really proud as his mom that I raised this young man to recognize a queen and to do what a man does when he finds his queen, right? She's great. We really like her. So mom's approved. And yeah, Zay's going to be a husband, and it's a new journey too. It's a new learning thing. And this adult child, now he's going to be a husband one day. So really excited for him, really happy and proud as his mom.
The last thing I have for you, and I wanted to ask this is, Xavier also played through some injury, and it really wasn't publicized, right? So talk about that from your point of view that, he played through some injury, especially year 2 at Texas, right? And it didn't get out. It wasn't going to be publicized. That's not good for your team. That's not good for Xavier. But talk about, him playing through that. You knew what was going on with him. And again, to his toughness and his competitiveness, because it would have been easy to sit out 2 or 3 games.
Yeah. That was a rough year. It was also a really good learning year. I'm a huge believer, and I'll say it again, everything happens for a reason. So, coming off that great freshman year and everything, it's like, okay, we're going to continue that. But I think in life, you have to learn the good with the bad, the hard with the easy. And I think that sophomore year, when he did, break his hand and he really was out there still trying to play, you got people saying whatever they want to say. You're not able to perform at your optimum level because of this. It built this mental toughness, I should say, increased his mental toughness, which I really think at this next level, you're really going to need. So, it again happened for that reason. He played through it. He didn't complain. He did what he could, did not want to let his team down. And, at the end of the day, when it all comes out, of course, then everyone's like, oh, wow. But that's why you just have to live, in your truth, build your mental up and just keep doing what you do. And that's what he did. And I'm really, really proud of him for that.
Now he gets to catch passes from Patrick Mahomes.
I hope you got your cold weather gear for November and December.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I need to get it. I'm scared. I'm so used to that this week. So
hey, the great thing about it, I think the entire there's been some videos out there of when the Kansas City Chiefs moved up to get Xavier in the draft. There's been like some other GMs just like, God, I can't believe they did this. I can't believe they're going to go get the fastest guy to match with Mahomes and the other tools they have out there in Kansas City. Thank you so much, Nicky, for joining us. You've just been a pleasure. Congratulations to you and your family. Getting ready to be a mother-in-law. It can be different, right?
Yeah.
Good luck to you, okay?
All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Nicky.
Thank you for spending time with us this morning. Welcome. Yeah, that's good
By
stuff.
the way, by special thanks to Nicky. She's out in California, so 7 a.m. out there to jump on with us. So thank you very much. And hey, she needs to host a show for us. That's with us. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, yeah, she's got
not to have a voice.
Hey, you know what she said about Xavier in that second year? So true. Like, I mean, I remember I was at a Texas One Fund event, and Xavier was one of the first people to get a deal with Texas One Fund, right? Just as it was very just off the ground even. And I was at this event, and it was at a elementary school in Austin, and I went to just go cover it. And I came away and I said, he's got a cast on his hand. And this is like mid-October, right? And it's during the middle of the season. I'm like, he's a receiver that has a cast on his hand, doesn't have one during the regular season, though. I'm like, what is going on here? And, I knew that he had issues there. I didn't know what they were. But to have a broken hand, a lot of people, Sark did not want to tell opponents that his best receiver at that time had hand issues. And a lot of Texas fans still to this day don't believe that's true. But I remember being at that thing going, and I was talking to the guy that was running the event. And I'm like, is he, because it wasn't his first one. He goes, he's had that for a couple of weeks now. So just remember that. Good stuff. Good learning. And also I like the part, I really do like the part about letting your kids find their own path in sports, man. Yeah, it's okay to nudge, but it's not necessarily okay to push, right? There's a difference. Good stuff from her.
Okay, y'all, we got time for a few more questions, but before we get to those, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell folks out there about Longhorn Wealth Management Group one last time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you to our sponsor, John Donovan, President, Longhorn Wealth Management. As a proud Utah alum, John has served 15 years as a Dallas Texas Exes board member, and he is now helping lead the build-out of the Collin County Texas Exes, where I spoke last Saturday at their Welcome to the SEC preseason football kickoff party. John's a certified financial planner with 30 years of experience and expertise in helping Longhorn families maximize their wealth, minimize their taxes, and secure their legacy. To discuss strategies for how you can truly secure your overall financial future, schedule your own free 90-minute consultation with John by simply calling Longhorn Wealth 972-707-4900 or going online, longhornwealth.net. Hook 'em from John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management.
All right. And let's take a few more questions before we have to get out of here. This first one here from Jackson Jackson asks, could we see Quinn use his legs more with the injury to Baxter?
I don't know that it's going to be I don't think there's going to be designed zone reads like 10 of them this year instead. I just don't know that that's going to be the case. I do think we saw Quinn use his legs more last year, finding his way a little bit better in the pocket. As he finds and becomes better at diagnosing kind of pressure in the pocket, I've talked about that was one of the weaknesses I thought he had overall last year. Brian Irwin also said the same thing. He kind of ran into trouble sometimes or created trouble for himself with his pocket awareness. As he gets better at that, he will naturally run more and make it into run pass option. But he's not going to run more. Sark does not run the quarterback.
No.
And Quinn Ewers is not that guy either. While he is getting stronger and bigger, he's still not built like that guy. I mean, Arch Manning could be. He's got big old thighs and calves and muscular upper body. He's more built like that. Quinn's just not.
No. And to Bobby's point, there'll be designed runs for Arch Manning. The Mannings, go take a look at the Mannings history. That's not why they picked Texas. That's not to mean you can't have one or two, but staple of the offense now. That's not the development.
And we'll stay on the Quinn talk here for a moment as AJJ asks, how much has Quinn improved his deep ball this offseason? I feel like we haven't talked about it as much as we used to.
It's I talked to multiple people yesterday and Saturday about the scrimmage. There weren't a lot of deep passes thrown, or the secondary did not give up a single ball over their heads on Saturday. That's a huge improvement. Think about the spring game. So you think those guys didn't get drilled through their heads this offseason about not giving up the big play over the top? A lot of crossers, a lot of different types of routes that I think Texas was trying to work through on Saturday. They did not really toss the deep ball as much. I do think that the deep ball is one that you can get better at over time. So the more you throw it, the better you become. Quinn's going to be okay there. He may never be the greatest deep ball thrower of all time, but he's going to be more than okay.
I would say this too is Quinn doesn't have to improve as a total deep ball thrower. He's really good between the hashes. It's the right side maybe. Some guys just have everybody's has something they need to work on. I think right side deep ball is a key one for him for whatever reason. Right side deep ball along the sideline. That's going to be an area I think moving forward in his career that he has to improve on, because those are all just key areas. But he in between the numbers, in between the hashes, throwing a deep ball, he's not bad there.
And then let's see this next question from Living Rent Free in UT. How has Isaiah Bond looked? Has he cleaned up the dropsies?
I didn't hear about a single drop on Saturday. Jerry, did you hear about any drops?
I think they had 2 or 3, but I never was told who.
Okay.
In the scenario of it.
Yeah, I did not hear about, and I asked. Isaiah Bond's an interesting player because the two that I was told looked the best were Silas Bolden and Ryan Wingo. But Wingo predominantly got run with Arch Manning in the twos, and really did a lot of his work there. So with the ones, Isaiah Bond is certainly a guy that's been talked about. Jonte Cook, we've talked about Matthew Golden being a little bit of a security blanket type for Quinn at times. I go back to what we talked about at the very outset of this, and Jerry and I are going to try to do a video later today really discussing the wide receivers situation, because we think it's one of those things that needs further illumination. The piece that I would caution folks on is don't be too hung up on any single receiver right now, as much as trying to find the chemistry. Let Quinn and the offense figure that out. For example, I'll tell you right now, the third most targeted receiver I heard in scrimmage after Bolden and Wingo, I believe, was not Bond, but actually Amari Niblack. So it is football's a team sport, and we look at receivers as this group, but there's a lot of pieces to this, and I just don't know what I have. I really look at Steve Sarkisian, and he's a little bit of a mad scientist on offense. That's his MO, right? And I say mad, but he's actually pretty straightforward about it. But it comes out looking that way because he can be such a witch with it, in my opinion. He has got so many permutations going on in his head about how he wants to use it. And I think he's going to have personnel groupings for series of plays that he wants to run at that particular time. He's got those kind of guys available to him now. Whereas last year, he had 3 receivers. And they were those receivers. He had JT Sanders. That was what he had. He'd mix in a running back, throwback, the misdirection play. This is a different group of guys because he can come at you. And I mentioned this, and somebody said it to me. They can come at you in waves. And that's really hard on a defense to be prepared for every different aspect of what they can do right now.
I would say this too. One of the things with the Saturday scrimmage, not throwing deep may have also been a little bit by design, because I think the one thing that Sark is, and I'm not saying it was, but just a thought here based on a couple of things we've heard, is I think the one thing that Quinn, Sark, trying to get on the same page with all these new wide receivers, make sure the same reads that Sark and Quinn are seeing are the same reads the receivers are seeing especially in that short to mid to intermediate game. So I think there was, some of this stuff is by design as well. So I think there was a concerted effort there a little bit Saturday to try to make sure everybody's eyes are seeing the same things and the routes are being run the same way that Quinn expects them to be run, and see where that communication and understanding's at.
That you're really talking about route recognition, right?
Yep.
From the receiver. Yep. That is one thing that has to be a concern at some level. Xavier Worthy and Jordan Whittington, route recognition for them, by the time they were there last season, they were done. I mean, you didn't have to coach it, right? Even though these guys are experienced, like Silas Bolden and Isaiah Bond, as well as Matthew Golden, it's a different offense. And so you do have to teach different route recognition, and how quickly they pick that up could be one of the things that Steve Sarkisian and Chris Jackson are talking about or talked about on Sunday. Which guys aren't picking it up. We're going to play the guys that pick it up. And so, Silas Bolden, I'm just giving this an example. Silas Bolden may be the most explosive receiver and the best receiver right now, but he may not be picking up route recognition as well. I don't know that. I'm just giving you a thought process. That can cut playing time even off of an explosive receiver.
And our final question for the day, guys, comes from Jacob Bartlow. Jacob asks, gentlemen, help gauge the optimism for the team this year on a scale of 0 to 10, with 10 being national champs. Where are we?
I would be at an 8.5 to a 9. But I'm, 10 for me was 2005. I mean, I'll be honest. I thought 2005 it was national championship or bust. I don't think that this team is national championship or bust. Like, I think they're talented enough to compete at that level, but it's not national championship or bust. What do you think, Jerry?
Yeah, I would say I'm around the same thing. I agree. I agree with that. Now, look, I'm of the opinion that there's not going to be great teams in college football anymore because the portal, too much roster turnover, the NFL salaries. I mean, the rounds you get picked in, those salaries continue to go up. There's nothing saying great teams in college anymore. And I think that's what's going to – I think college football is amazing, is about to be amazing. When it goes to 16-team playoff, I think it's just going to be off the charts cool. But so to your point, I'm not sure I have a 10 again. Maybe, but that team, even that year, USC was a great team. that Texas team, I said, man, they may actually be a great team. I just don't see that in college football. I just think the NIL, the portal really is the main cause. The portal, more guys go into the draft earlier because the money's just – I don't care what you make in NIL. I mean, just look at the slots in the NFL draft and moving towards your second contract. Nothing is set up to have like sustained build of great teams in college football. So I'm not sure – I mean, I wouldn't even have Georgia as a 10. I mean, in this, I'd have them as a 9.5. But look, I mean, they've had 20 guys arrested and they just kicked off their best receiver, and their D-line's really good, but it's not 4 first-rounders like it was. And Mikael Williams, the first-rounder they have, wants to be a stand-up linebacker and not put his hand in the ground. Well, that's not what Jalen Carter and Travon Walker and all those other guys, that wasn't their mentality. So I wouldn't have Georgia or Ohio State as a 10 either. Now, for the Ohio State fan base, they're probably a little different than we are. They're probably saying national championship or bust, Ryan Day.
Yes, they are.
They could be in that mode. But I'm not sure I see great teams in college football anymore. But really good teams are going to win the national title.
I will say this. The sophomore and freshman class, along with a number of the juniors, Texas has a real chance to have that. You said I don't know if there's ever going to be a 10 again. Well, probably because there's not going to be another number 10 at and Vince Young. But my point on that would be this freshman and sophomore class, included with a couple of these the juniors that I think may have fifth years, are going to be good players too. I would buy long on Texas in 2026 right now. I'll just put it that way. If I was really one of those type of guys and there was actually a prop bet for that kind of thing, I'm just telling you, I'd buy long for Texas 2025, 2026.
Yeah, I like 2025 a lot, as long as you don't lose all 5 offensive line starters.
That's why I said 26.
Yeah, 26 may be the build out. It's going to be interesting how it all times up, because 2025 will be the last year that Anthony Hill and Manny Muhammad are in Austin, and they may be all SEC level guys at their position. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Okay, y'all, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group. We want to thank them, along with Factor, Manscaped, and Mint Mobile, for sponsoring today's show. And real quick, I just saw this question from E. Kim. He says, how does baseball recruiting look? Ask me UTEP weekend. I think that's going to be a good weekend for Texas baseball. So we'll get to that here in a few weeks. But thank you all for the great questions, for tuning in, for the super chats. Bobby, what do you have coming later today right here on Texas Football?
Well, the AP poll is out later today, the first of the season. We'll definitely be talking about that at ontexasfootball.com. Jerry and I are going to talk about the receivers, the whole group, not just the wide receivers, but the tight ends as well, and how that's rotating out here on Texas Football, the video and podcast channel. And beyond that, Sark goes to the mic at 5 today, around about, we think. And so we'll come back with that as well. The winning drive starts at 3:00 today. Don't forget Rod Babers, Bob Shipley, CJ Vogel, and they will be joined by Stevie Lee, the former Texas defensive lineman, every Monday as a special guest for a few minutes as well. So I hope everybody has a good week this week. We are literally 19 days away. Did we decide whether it was Zena Umeozulu, Peter Jenkins, Brandon Jones, Blaine?
It's Justin Tucker. It's
Justin
Tucker.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's
I
Justin
think you got to go with that one. Good call. For sure. All right, guys. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell so you're notified anytime that we post content, go live, whatever it may be. And that way you don't miss a beat. And then head on over to ontexasfootball.com. Lots of news and great discussion going on over there. So there's no better time to become a member as we inch closer and closer to the season. And for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you same time, same